So hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to show you guys a quick tutorial on how to make an HTML and CSS website for beginners. The only tools that we're going to be needing for this video is Visual Studio Code, which I have open right over here. We're also going to need a search engine. Personally, I think Safari and Google work the best for this. So just open those two up. We're just going to close that down, or I'm going to minimize the tab just to make this a bit easier for me. And once we're done with that, go into Visual Studio Code, click this little icon over here, Extensions, and download Live Server. What this will let you do is you can right click in your code, open with Live Server, and without reloading the page in your browser, it'll automatically update the page. So I'm just going to open up a folder really quickly, whatever it is. Let's go into Downloads, Tutorial Files. You guys can create your own folder for this or wherever you're storing your project. Now we're going to press this little icon over here. If you hover over it, it'll say New File. And I'm going to call this index.html. You guys could call it menu or whatever you guys want to call it. And usually for Visual Studio Code, they'll have a snippet where you could just put an exclamation point, press enter, and it'll set you up with all this stuff over here. These tile tags over here, this is where you're going to put the title of your page. So, for instance, our title of this page specifically will be Home. You guys can change it to whatever you guys would like. And in between this head and body tag, I'm going to create another tag called Style. Close it off. And this is where we're storing our CSS, or the styling for our project. And inside the body tags is where our HTML will go. So now, if we right click on our project, we could press open with Live Server once you've installed it. And in our browser, it'll automatically open it up. Now, as you can see, our entire page is white because we did not add anything just yet. Just to make sure this is working, we could just type hello and file save. It'll automatically update and hello should appear. So now let's create our header. For instance, on this page, my header is going to be welcome to my website. So we're just going to use the header tag over here. Close that off. I'm just going to say welcome to my website. File save. And right now the tag is kind of small. Let's say we want to make this bigger. So the only way to do that is we just go into our style or the CSS. We type in header. And now we're going to type in font size. Spelled font wrong. And I'm just going to do 26 pt. That should make text larger. Now, I want to bold it. To do that, we're just going to say font weight bold. And now our text should be bold. And lastly, I want to underline it. So to do that, we're going to say text decoration underline. And there we go. Now, some people may like their text to be on this side of the page, but personally, when I'm putting in headers, I like it to be in the center of the page. To do that, all we need to say is text align center. And now our text should be in the center of the page, just like that. If we want to bring it down by a bit, there are different ways to do that, but just to keep this page simple, I'm going to use the margin top. So I'm just going to type in margin top, and I'm going to say 20%. File Save. And that should bring it down a bit. So this is in the mobile perspective, but if we increase the size of our page here for desktop, then it'll look something like that. Perfect. So now, let's place text right underneath our header. So here we set up our margin in the header, but for now, we're just going to delete that and create a div. And we're going to also create a class, which we haven't done yet, but we will right after we type this. And I'm just going to call this box1. I'm going to remove that. And there we go. So nothing has changed just yet, but the only difference is it's not going to be at the down a bit. So now, right underneath our header where we put our first CSS thing, right underneath, we're just going to type .box1. And the reason why we're putting a dot is because it's a custom class. So now we can just set up the margin over here. So margin top 20%. So now we don't have to recreate the header or whatever it is whenever we want to create a new piece of text. And there we go. So right underneath here, maybe we want to put a little description. I'm just going to use the lorem ipsum snippet. So lorem, I'm just going to say I want this to be 15 words. Oh, I forgot how to do it. I'm just going to lorem. There we go. Save. I'm just going to place that entire lorem ipsum thing here. So here we said text align center in our header tag up here. But we can delete that and just go into box 1 and say it there, and it'll transition every text piece that we put in that box to that part. So text align center, and just like that, we have everything in the center now. Great. And since this is stretching out across our entire page, maybe we want to have it mainly towards like in this area right over here, and we don't want the rest of the text to be out here. To do that, all we need to do is set up a width for our box 1. So we're just going to say max width in this scenario. And I'm going to say our max width is 80%. Save. That will change a lot of the things, but it will focus the text more towards the middle. But in this video specifically, I'm not going to do that because that's going to kind of change a couple things in our work. So I'm just going to keep it like this for now. And that's what it'll look like in mobile view. Like this. And now, maybe we want to put a little button underneath that says join now. To do that, all we need to do is right underneath our text over here, we're going to use the button tag over here. And we're just going to say join now. Or get started. File. Save. And our get started button should appear right over here. Personally, I don't want it to be on the same line as the text. So to fix that up by a little bit, we can separate these two pieces by just putting an H6 tag. And just like that, our get started button is right underneath. Now right now our get started button doesn't do anything. If you do want it to do something, we can always put our button in a form, or we could create an A tag inside of the button. I like A tags and all, but it'll underline the text inside of the button. So to keep this simple, we're just going to use the form option. So we're just going to say form, action, And here is where we want to put the page that we want to navigate to when you click on it. We haven't created the page just yet, so I'm just going to keep that blank. We save our file and you click over here, you'll see that the page will reload, but the reason why it's not navigating anywhere is because we haven't set up a place for it to navigate to. Let's say we do want to navigate to somewhere. We could just say https youtube.com or whatever the page is. Click over here. It'll navigate us to YouTube. So, perfect. But we don't want to navigate to YouTube just yet because we're going to create another page that we want it to navigate to. So now let's focus on button styling. Right now our button does look great and all, but I want to fix it up to make it look the way I want it to look. To do that, we could just use the button tag up here. And first let's set up our border radius. Now border radius is basically like how the edges are shaped. So if I'd say 10 pixels, instead of the button being like a full square, it'll be kind of circle-ish, as you could see. And it does change the look of the actual button, but we'll fix that later. And now if we say button double dot hover, and we say border radius 0 pixels, when we hover over our button, it'll kind of change. I'm just going to use 10% for now, which is a lot. This really does make our button look different though, so I'm really just going to change it. So there's also transitions and things that you can make the button look a lot more smoothly. So we're going to click save over here. First of all, let's set up our button color to be blue, for instance. So to do that, we're just going to say background blue. I'm just going to edit this to be the way I like it. So we could hover over our little color icon over there and it'll let us edit it. I want my button though to be sort of a lighter blue. Kind of like that. And I also want the text inside of our button to be white. So to do that, we just say color white, file, save, and boom. Doesn't look great just yet, because inside of so now if we add a transition, inside of, not box 1, but inside of our button, if we add a transition, 0.7 seconds, nothing will happen just yet, but in button hover, let's say background to be red. Set the background to red. Gonna make it look the way we want it. So when we hover over the button, it'll slowly transition to a different color, which looks really cool. So that's a simple main page. Let's say we also want to add a little bit of spacing between the header and the text. We could just say H6 over here as well. File, save, and just like that, we have a simple main page. Now we could also set up a button at the top for navigation. To do that, we just say nav href, but in this scenario, yeah, we'll do href actually. Href, we want this to navigate to nowhere just yet. Home or about me. We reload the page now. And at the top we have a little About Me icon right over here. About Me text. Which is great. Now we can also actually edit how that looks by just saying a text decoration. And we can also say transparent. What that does is pretty much nothing. But that's basically it. Now when we click on About Me, it'll just reload the page because we haven't set up a navigation, like a place to navigate to just yet. That's how it looks like on computer. And if we also want this to float to the left side, we could just and this is a custom class, so we're just going to put a dot in the beginning. And float left. And now we're going to give our that class by just saying class float left. And now it should float to the left side of the page. Oh, left. I meant to say float right. In there. It's floating to the right side of the page. But right now it's sticking inside of this box. Unfortunately, to do that, we could just say margin top 5%. Or maybe negative 10%. And it should slowly move itself upwards. Perfect. So we could just change the page, and it is mobile responsive. Great. So we have our little About Me slide over here, and everything looks great so far. Now let's also add a little transition effect to our A. So, dot float left hover color tomato. Change to red. And let's also add a little transition, which is 0.7 seconds. Save. So I'll slowly change. For say we want to change the background color of the entire page, in our style tag we just type body. I'm going to make this look a bit nicer. Body, backgrounds, and I want to make it a little black kind of color, but not fully black, so we're just going to change it to the way we want it. By maybe doing it something like that. Now we want to change all the color to white. Do that, what to say? Color white in body. And now everything changes to the white color. Unfortunately, the About Me is still purple. To change that, we just change the float left to color white. Great. Now for say, we want to have a little scroll effect. So when we click on Get Started, it'll scroll down to the next. It'll like scroll down for you to the next part of our page. To do that, let's exit our box one. Create a new div. We're going to call this we'll set the class as box2. Now, let's just throw some random text in here. Dot box2. Now let's text align everything to our center, to the center of the page. And also, let's set the margin top to 150%. So now it's all the way down here. When we click Get Started, we want to navigate all the way down. So to do that, in our Action tab, we're just going to say that. Put a little number sign over there and box2. Now this should work. If it doesn't, then we're just going to set a ref or box2. Cannot get box2. Let me see. If we set the about me here to box2, that should work. Oh, not save as, but save. Huh, that's weird. Here, I'm going to open up a new file, guys. Just bear with me for a second, because I just really feel like fixing this. I'm going to open up my other website. So, learn more. Hashtag middle. Section class. Okay, so we need to give it an ID. So, we still give it the hashtag box2, just like that. But we just need to give the div an ID of box2. Now, this should work. And it'll scroll down. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Now if we go over here, we can also set a transition to scroll down. So to do that, in our little form here, I'm pretty sure this would work, but don't trust me on it because I haven't done this before. Switch, I'm just gonna call this .switch transition 0.7 seconds. Didn't exactly work, but I tried. So now when we click over here, it'll switch down to the text stats down here. Now we could also set up how much it'll scroll down, but let's not do that just yet. Alright, and we could also add in a little button here that says join now. Great. So this is kind of useless, but it kind of shows you how to do specific things in HTML and CSS. And this is an extremely simple website. And when we click join now, or about us, we just need to create a new page over here. We're just going to call this about.html. In our index, now when we click about me, in the ref option, we're just going to say about.html, so it'll navigate to that page. And let's put our button in a form. So now, when we're at the top of our page over here, we click About Me. It'll go to the About Me page. Get started About Me. And it'll go to the About Me page. I'm just going to copy all this stuff to make this easier because I don't want this video to be too long. So here, we're just going to change our header to About Me. We're going to change this About Me slide to Home. Here, we're just going to say index.html instead of About Me. Here, we're just going to say back or more. Then it'll go down to here. More info. And lorem. So now in our normal page, we click About Me, More, and it'll scroll down to More Info. And right over here, I'm just going to set up a couple more info stuff so that it doesn't scroll down to that specific spot. We could just set up another H1 tag to make that simpler. I'm just going to say H5 and increase the font size. This is the easiest way to do it. So more. Scroll down like that. And now right underneath there, we're going to put in another button. I will say back. Or back to top. And we're also going to put this in a form. Up here in our header, we need to give this an ID. Our ID is going to be top, action, hashtag, top. Therefore, just going to remove that, put it right down here. And we're going to place this form right on top of the H5. But we still will separate it by an H6 tag. Just like that. So here we can navigate back to home. Welcome to my website. Get started. Click About Us to learn more. I'm also going to set up a H5 here. So perfect. So now welcome to my website, Get Started. It'll take us to this little spot up here. Click About Us to learn more. Click About Us. About Me. Here's where our text lays about who we are. Click More. It'll scroll down to more info, and we could also go back to top. And this is just a really simple website where you could place what you like to do, or like a little portfolio website. Like with an actual website, you're definitely going to spend more time on styling, but this is just a really cool beginner's thing to get started on. And we've been in mobile view the entire time. I just wanted to show you guys how this page is also desktop responsive. So like welcome to my website, and it'll also work. So we click About Us over here, more, and back to top. So this site really works on absolutely everything, and there are a lot of pros about it working on multiple devices. The best part about that is, well, if someone doesn't have a computer, they can look at it on their phone, and that just increases the amount of traffic or the amount of people who come onto your website in general. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. And if you guys want any more tutorials, then just leave it in the comment section below. HTML is definitely a cool language, and I haven't been learning it for too long, but I think I'm pretty sure I know enough to create a couple more tutorials. If you want me to do another Firebase tutorial on like signups or logins, I could also do that. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.